Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of
Sweet Divorce
Podcast. I'm Rosario Santoyo.
And I'm Gretel Smith.
And today's episode, we are going to be talking about maintaining positive relationships
and cleaning out the toxic ones.
So, first, let's talk about what a positive relationship is. And we've got an online definition for you today to help out with that. Healthy relationships involve honesty, trust, respect, and open communication between partners, and they take effort and compromise from both people. There is no imbalance of power. Partners respect each other's independence, can make their own decisions without fear of retribution or retaliation, and share decisions. There are boundaries, communication, trust, consent, and mutual respect. So that is the online definition of what a positive relationship is.
And what defines a toxic relationship? And we have another online definition. A toxic relationship is one that makes you feel unsupported, misunderstood, demeaned, or attacked. A relationship is toxic when your well-being is threatened in some way, emotionally, psychologically, and even physically. In a toxic relationship, you'll see a lot of power struggles, jealousy, and parties walking on eggshells.
So, first, let's talk about healthy relationships, how we can maintain them, and things that we can do to stay connected with our partners. Some examples of what we can do to stay connected with our partners is simply to set time aside for the two of you to do something together. It can be as simple as going for a walk somewhere in the park, by a lake. We've got a lot of great lakes here in San Diego. There's Lake Murray, there's Lake Poway, and while you're walking and getting fresh air, there's quiet, and it's just a good opportunity to converse with your partner about what's going on, as simple as how their life is going, how their day was, or what you've been thinking about between the two of you that you can discuss during that time.
Absolutely. I think that's important. Staying connected. Also fostering respect. So how do you foster respect between the two of you? That's just as much as, agreeing with your partner on certain things, but also it's okay to disagree, but do it in a respectful way. So I understand that might be how you feel. However, my feelings are X or Y, and using those I feel and I understand, and recognizing your partner's position, letting them know that you hear them and that you see them, and then stating what your feelings are, and understanding that both of you may have the same feelings or different feelings, and that's okay, that you respect each other regardless.
That's a good example also, because a lot of times the boundary comes from not wanting to understand that not everyone thinks like you. So in most things in life, there is no right and wrong answer. And being able to share how you feel with your partner without fear of being judged or mimicked or mocked, but just to try to reach a point of understanding so that you know where behavior comes from, where someone's position comes from. That's really important and sort of key to having a respected relationship. Just acknowledging, okay, I am one way and you are another way. Between those two different ways that we are, there is no right and wrong. There is a compromise that we have to reach in order to continue to live together in harmony, because we love each other, we respect each other, and we want this relationship to work.
Absolutely. The other thing that I think is important in a healthy relationship is maintaining outside relationships and interests. In a healthy relationship, if you are only with your partner all the time and you guys do everything together, there's a time where you lose who you are. And it's important to always maintain some semblance of you as an individual as well. It keeps things interesting in your relationship, focusing on a hobby that you really like, and also making sure that you maintain those friendships that are outside of your marriage or your whatever relationship it may be, so that you can come to your partner refreshed and renewed and not feeling like they're the only person you can ever rely on in life.
Also fostering honest communication, and it sort of circles back to what I've already said. Just if you're able to be honest with each other with no fear of judgment, then that's better for your relationship, because it also develops trust. And you have to be able to trust the person that you're with, trust that they just want what's best for you. And it just creates a safe space to share your thoughts. And if you want somebody to be honest, then they can't be afraid of what your reaction is going to be if that person is honest with you.
Yeah. So, Rosario, what are some things that you do to kind of help keep your relationship healthy and balanced between you and your partner?
We try to communicate on a regular basis, but we also try to set time aside to just do something fun together. And an example is trivia. We go to trivia nights, and we won this past week, which was really exciting. We go with some friends because our lives are very busy. As you know, we've got 4 terrific kids, and they keep us busy. They keep our calendars full. But along with that, we have this little chunk of time where we're able to go out together and have fun and sort of be a couple. Also, we support each other. My husband plays softball, and I go to his games, and I'm his fangirl. So I go out there and I cheer him on. And he actually mentioned that he liked that. And so that made me really happy because, once again, it sort of takes you back to dating. We've been together a really long time. And yeah, it just takes you back to your dating days, and it reminds you of what you loved about this person in the first place. But also, it's putting the relationship as a priority. That's another thing that sort of prevents relationships from being healthy and long term, is you can't take it for granted. We have to acknowledge that it requires constant work. You know, you can't just say, okay, I'm done, and now I don't have to worry about this relationship anymore. Even if you have nothing to worry about, you have to still build it and nurture it. So acknowledging that you have to continue to make an effort is a huge step as well.
I couldn't agree with you more, and I love that, you go to his softball games, and some things that you do. What are some things that you do to just keep your interests alight? And
my interest in my husband?
No, just in general, to keep you healthy and who you are as an individual, so that you're coming to the table refreshed.
I have book club.
I love that.
I have book club. I had book club yesterday, and we talked about it, and that's an opportunity to have space that's just me, because my husband doesn't go to book club, and it's just a bunch of friends. We read a book, we talk about it, and we try to get books that will stimulate our brains a little bit, and it provides for great discussions. But during that time, it also provides us with the opportunity to talk about what's going on in our own lives. And we're sort of like kind of another support group in that we have each other no matter what. Sometimes, we've all gone through different things over the years that we've been meeting. And knowing that we can all circle back to our comfortable space where we're all sitting together, talking about a book, but also being provided an opportunity to share what's going on in our lives with some other people, that's really helpful too. Yeah. What do you do?
So, just for my husband and I, things that we do to try to foster a relationship, we do the same or similar thing. We don't go to trivia every week. We don't have that group, but we try to carve out time every week, at least some time, just to, whether it's we go out on a date or we just have an hour set aside to just talk and reconnect and say, hey, how's your week going? Is there anything that's going on that's upsetting to you? And just coming to the table. At least once a week we try to do that. And obviously we live together, so we try to do that more than then. But again, with a busy schedule, we only have one child, but it's still, we're in baseball season these days. So we're all running all over the place in many different directions. So just carving that time out, I think, is so important. Personally, for me, my self-time is what I like to call it, is, I try to at least have one time a week where I spend it with friends doing some kind of activity. I'm an avid horseback rider, so I try to get out to the stables and ride on a regular basis. Or I've also recently started dancing again, and so I try to go to a dance class once a week just to reconnect with myself and my friends. So, and again, just to have that support network on the outside as well. I just think it keeps us fresh and healthy and willing and ready to just be the best partner we can. And I could not agree with you more that any relationship takes work. And anybody that says it doesn't, they're not putting the time in, and you've got to put that time in and effort. And I don't think there's any, when people say we have a perfect marriage is where you guys are, mutually respecting each other, but there are times where things are going to go up and down, where you're not going to have that time always to reconnect because lives get busy. So it's very important to stop and say, hey, look, guys, we need to take this moment and let's go out, or let's get a babysitter tonight. Or let's see if we can find a friend, if our children can go to a play date, so you and I can just have that time together.
Yes, play dates are great. opportunities to reconnect.
Absolutely. And I love that I'm finally at the point where our son is old enough to go out on play dates where, we can drop him off. And it's lovely. My husband and I are finding that on the weekends, sometimes we actually have a couple of hours and we're able to go have lunch together. And it's lovely because we don't have to pay a babysitter. And we reciprocate as well. So,
Yes.
Right. So,
Friends with kids are great.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think it's just really important to just maintain our friendships outside as well, because, it's, it just bolsters and holds us up and puts us together and allows us to kind of get also a reset too and see how other people's relationships are sometimes too. I think that's a good.
Yes.
Yeah.
And surround yourself with people that have similar lifestyle goals. I think that's important too. I'm going into the toxic relationship portion of our podcast. Toxic relationships are abusive, as we mentioned. Sometimes there's domestic violence. Sometimes there are threats between partners. And that's not the way you want to live. And it's also important to acknowledge things that you can change and things that you can't change about someone else. So if there is a person in your life that is threatening to you, that without acknowledging these threats, without apologizing for any behavior, if there's one incident where somebody's behaving badly, then you can say, okay, well, why did you act this way? This is how I felt. And that goes back to being able to communicate openly and honestly. I don't like the way you made me feel when you said these things. I felt threatened. And saying that and having the other person accept and try to understand what your position is, that's important. But if you have someone who's not trying to understand what your concerns are, what your grievances are.
Yeah, if you have somebody who is basically where you feel like you can't even openly say, I'm really upset that you did X. Or when you said X, it hurt my feelings. And if you're fearful of speaking your mind to your partner, that is a very clear sign that you're in a toxic relationship or you're in an unhealthy relationship, and that you both need to seek some assistance.
Yes.
If that's what you want, if you want to try to salvage that relationship. I think it's really important if you're in a relationship where there is physical violence, and regardless of whether you have children or not, that is a relationship you need to get yourself out of.
Yes.
Period. And that's not because the person you're with might be a bad person. They may be a fine person, except for the fact that they are physically harming you. You need to protect yourself. And there is never, ever, there's never a good reason for somebody to physically harm you, period. So I just want to make sure that we are very clear on that anytime there is a physical violence or threat of physical violence, please find a safe space, reach out to a family member or a friend, and get yourself a safety plan so that you can remove yourself from that position. And at that time, maybe you guys can try to work something out. Maybe that person can get therapy. They can go to some anger management, other things. But you need to put yourself first in a relationship where there is physical harm. However, toxic relationships aren't always abusive necessarily. They're just not healthy for you as a person. And that could be just as much that you guys just aren't able to communicate. You're not able to speak, like you said, your mind, or one person might say one thing and you're so polar opposite, you're just not going to ever be able to come to a compromise. Right. And at that point, it's, you need to talk about where that relationship is going and how you see it in the future and what you guys actually want to have happen.
Hello, Brugos and Toyo Smith editor here. For more information on healthy and toxic relationships, links are in the description box of this episode. Now back to today's episode.
Once again, communication would be really important to determine what the next steps are.
And if you can't communicate at that point, is your relationship salvageable? And, my primary thing, if there's no physical violence and it's an issue of inability to communicate and partners are just, you're just constantly bickering, seek out a couples therapist. And maybe that couples therapist isn't going to be able to help you repair your relationship, but perhaps that therapist might be able to help you uncouple in a positive manner so that you guys aren't fighting all the time.
Yes.
If you find that your relationship with a significant other is not healthy and you're wondering what your legal rights are, if you want to leave, please reach out to our firm for a consultation.